match coming up. SilverName versus Viper is our second match of the day that we're going to be rolling into. And SilverName has had a big turnaround in these final weeks of Grandmasters, where he started bringing good decks.
It's funny how that works out. Where if you stop playing Mech Hunter, things
just
work
start
out a little
winning.
bit better for you. Yeah. And SilverName here is on the Rogue train. It was Bomb Warrior last week. It's Rogue this week. He's kind of fallen into line with what the dominant forces in the metagame are to be. But again, kind of a different build from what we just saw from Tice. No surprise, Tice's deck is just somewhat unique. One copy of Eviscerate, one copy of Sap, but none of that extra Burgle package, just the core of the Burgle package that we've seen up until this point, the Blink Foxes and the Henge Clan Burglars themselves.
I'm looking forward to seeing him pilot this deck. I think he did a heck of a job with Bomb Warrior, and, you know, pretty much outside of the wacky things that he's brought, I feel like he's played very solid. It was the Token Druid and Mech Hunter. I kind of look at those decks, I don't really know what's going on. And it felt like he kept finding middle ground between the two, where he would take a stance and then kind of go decisively the other way, and then back and forth, back and forth. And those decks do not have the capability of going back and forth very much.
Yeah, I haven't found too much fault with the way he played, but you know, you have to say that deck preparation and deck building is part of the package of being a competitive player, of being a tournament player. So as much as you can criticize a player for missing lethal, or you know what Tice did where he missed out on a minion space on board, I think it's equally valid to criticize someone for their deck building.
Take a look at Viper and what he has brought. He's very much against the grain that Kalento just spoke about, where he has 2 Frostbolts and 2 halftime Scavengers in the tertiary deck, specifically to help fight off against aggressive minions, and, well, that's exactly what Rogue has.
It sure is, and this is the build that I picked out as to where I kind of like being versus Rogue, pretty much just because of those 2 Frostbolts. And going back to Kalento as well, I think that's one of the reasons he feels like he can get away with not teching for Rogue in one of his secondary or tertiary decks, is because he just includes a copy of Frostbolt in his primary deck, so he's kind of already hedged towards that point already.
Something about a nice clean deck list with the only one-ups being legendaries.
That's how you know you've built a good deck.
I love that.
2 of the good cards plus some stars. That's just how it works.
No one of the stupid cards.
Yep. That's a Hearthstone deck.
That's a real Hearthstone deck right there. I like to see that. So for Viper, now the match becomes, I think, even more paramount. That Kalento has picked up his first match win this week. He needs to be picking up wins, or his playoff dreams are quickly going to be dashed.
Yes, indeed. It means he has to do everything that he can to keep pace with Kalento by picking up the win here. But of course, as we keep mentioning, he does have that kicker later on where he does go head-to-head with Kalento and has the ability to tie up his match win score. Both could end up on 9 match wins, and also tie up the head-to-head record against Kalento by avenging the loss that he suffered earlier.
Yeah, kind of the things I'm looking at now are the Kalento and the Bunny Hopper records. Bunny Hopper's also sitting at 7-5.
Yep.
So if Viper wins this match, he would need either Bunny Hopper to lose both of his matches, or in the event that Bunny Hopper wins one of the matches, he would definitely need to beat Kalento in that second match. So it's very tightly packed in that top 4 situation, and Kalento winning even more so puts strain on these next matches that we have coming up. So I'm really excited about him. And for me, I like that SilverName is bringing better decks, because I feel like the one thing that he's yet to be able to display in a lot of his matches is being able to make decisions in macro situations and in really tough calls. He's been bringing decks that are very feast or famine. They either win the game with powerful cards, or they have no shot afterwards.
Yeah, and I think he's always been a player with a lot of competitive potential. He's a very talented player, but again, much like we were saying about Kalento in the last couple of years, has focused heavily on streaming, is a huge streamer. Which, you know, some people who are not, who are English language speakers only and have their Twitch filtered to English language speaking only might not know, but SilverName is a massive streamer in Hearthstone.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember commentating him all the way back in IEM Katowice, like years ago, where he made a run, I believe lost in the final to AKA Wonder, if my memory isn't letting me down. But again, that was one of the first times I saw him playing competitively. He looked like a very solid player and has looked like that ever since. Again, just his decks that were letting him down to this point.
Yep, I think about a lot of the tournament circuits that were run internationally over the years. And that was really where I caught my first glimpse of SilverName. And, you know, his media piece, he talks about playing control and considering that one of the strongest facets of his game. You know, we are in a pseudo-control meta right now, I suppose I would call it, where Bomb Warrior and
yeah, I'm going to need you to justify that one.
Well, like Bomb Warrior and Mage, right? They have control elements to them. And sometimes they have to play control games. But for the most part, I feel like they play more like mid-range aggro or combo decks.
Right.
But if they really, really need to, they can pivot back and go towards a control style. You know, the matchup with SilverName last week, he really did not have many pivot points to the control style in the matchup, and it took aggressive initiative the entire way. There was so many turns he had good-looking trades on board, and he's like, I need this 2 or 3 damage to face. And then you look down at the end of the game, and you're like, wow, all that damage really mattered at the end of the day.
SilverName himself, though, off to a good start in terms of pressure. That youthful Brewmaster from the Lackey has helped a lot.
3-2s.
Yeah, 3-2s. 3-2s against Mage. They're untargetable 3-2s, all the better. This is the situation we were talking about quite heavily last series, where SilverName now has such a significant amount of pressure that Viper is going to struggle to be able to play Luna's Pocket Galaxy this game.
He does have a massive turn, though.
He does.
Oh my gosh.
And it just got bigger.
Got to think about spell count off the Cyclone, as well as just efficiency of play to board. We're looking at 5 spells being played, which would leave him with 4 cards in hand. The Mana Cyclone comes down and fill back up.
If he took the Ray of Frost, right?
If he took the Ray of Frost. He might be... I mean, I wonder if there's a consideration for Magic Trick.
Well, also, he's already... This is a Magic Trick being cast right now, so that's already 1 spell. That's 2 more, that's 3.
That'd be 6 then. Yeah, so he's going up to 9 cards.
Yeah, Elemental Evocation would be 6. Which still works out just about perfectly.
Oh, he's going to protect the Sorcerer here. I like this.
Yeah, this makes sense to me.
I wonder if you have a Rip of Conjures going here. Nope.
Nope.
Second Galaxy. The second one is dead. It now says 5 mana spell.
Well, currently it says 4 mana spell.
The second one does. I don't know which one's the second one yet, but...
Well, they both say 4 mana spell right now.
Well, you know, one of them discounts the deck.
Okay.
It's pretty rare that a card in Hearthstone actually just says, like, spell and nothing. It's like that Priest card, the 6 mana, it's like select a minion.
Yes.
And then they always trade it away afterwards, and you get no effect from it. It like took it if it went to your turn. I'm like, all the way to my turn 6.
That was your favorite casting meme for like 6 straight months. The Priest 6 mana select.
It never came up.
It came up multiple. Well, you found a way to just shoehorn it in there nonetheless.
Well, yeah, I had to. That was a good one.
And then they printed Seance, where you do actually just get to select a minion.
I like Seance.
That Seance is a good card.
SilverName, an instantaneous Shark. I'm kind of surprised by that.
I wonder.
He checked the secret on the spell side, so it wasn't there. I mean, maybe that's what's affecting it, is the likelihood of mirror entity. And he's like, yeah, if he gets a Shark, that's nothing.
Yep. I think that's definitely influencing. And I think even without the mirror entity, I think it's justifiable just because he has Novice Engineer in hand alongside Ethereal Lackey, which, again, we've seen Rogue able to go very long in this matchup. It's not all about pressure. It's just pressure is plan A lot of the time, especially when it's primary versus primary.
I feel like the Frost Novas and the Flame Strike in Viper's hand, giving him a lot of security in playing a slow game plan, aka investing 5 mana into Lunas without any board development. I told you, just something about Assassinate for some reason doesn't excite me. Like the Walk the Plank, it's like hype. Assassinate just not for me.
You telling me you'd just rather pay a mana more?
No, I like the Walk the Plank. I don't like the Assassinate.
Oh, sorry, I thought we were talking about the contract versus the Assassinate.
Oh, well, no, I like Contract.
Okay.
It does stuff.
Choose
Shadow Word Death. Ooh, that excites me.
Well, Rat Trap excites SilverName. Ogre Magi excites me. There he is. There's the boy.
Oh.
The game solver.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that is right on time.
What to do? What to do?
I guess the issue here is you're not getting enough fireballs if you play it now. Maybe that's a good thing. It takes like SilverName's whole turn. Maybe you don't want him to take his whole turn because you want him to play stuff and then Flame Strike.
Right, that's kind of where I was leaning towards. My brain this turn was like, okay, we know Antonidas is good. Let's just put that on the back burner. So then I was trying to imagine a turn where I just do very little and then Flame Strike the turn after, and then Antonidas the turn after that, and whether that's a stronger way through the game.
Just find yourself some more cards.
Right.
Hopefully find some cheaper spells.
Runs out on
Or
me.
hopefully find some minions. If you don't find minions, find cheaper spells. One of the combinations of those two is going to work out best for you.
But I think personally that's how I spend a lot of time like trying to work out mage turns is, so right there you draw the Antonidas, you go, okay, that's my generic good turn. I will file that away and try and find something else to do. Because there's almost always something else to do with mage, right? And then if you don't find anything better, you just fall back on that default turn that you started out with, which was Antonidas Frostnova.
Yeah, the reason, maybe that's something that Vipers kind of look at too, though, is like if SilverName is going to blow this up with a discovery effect, that takes his whole turn.
He doesn't get usage out of his shark that way.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so you're happy with that.
Right.
If the way that SilverName blows this up is with minions and spells, that means they put stuff on the board to set up for Flame Strike.
Yep.
So for Viper, this was just a matter of the power play this turn.
Yeah, that's fair.
And again, with the Ludus, it's like the more time you buy, the better it gets.
I hope you like my invention.
This tells me that SilverName wants to save the big blow thing up effects and use these battle cries and combos.
With spell damage on that backstab, he does have a pretty clean clear on that Antonidas if he's willing to invest 5.
Choose soon.
Backstab SI7 Age would clear it out.
Yeah, it's just not mana efficient though.
It is mana efficient though. Yo,
I like this.
let's go.
I told you that Ogre Magi got me hyped.
That's a pretty strong recognition too, to realize that, you know what, I need to start using these waggle picks. My life is a resource right now. Don't overdevelop in the board. Like, this is enough to threaten massively. It's 8 attack.
Yeah. I think, weirdly enough, like the fact you're killing the Antonidas there and you only saw 1 fireball being generated gives you a lot of freedom to just use a little bit of your health total as a resource. If you haven't yet seen the Antonidas, especially an Antonidas that could cost 1 because of the Luna's Pocket Galaxy, you'd be kind of preemptively a little afraid of using your health as a resource.
That's an excellent point you make, because at the beginning of the show, we were talking about that, where you dislike that a lot of the mage decks are removing Antonidas
What to
Right.
do?
in order to supplement
What to do?
the anti-aggression plan.
Yep.
And you're talking about how you have found without Antonidas, I just don't have powerful enough turns. I don't have this one win condition that I can lean towards. For Viper, that's now gone.
Runs out on me.
So he has to win the game with minion pressure or Mana Cyclone created things. Right now, his hand is just a ton of defense with a Conjurer's Calling.
And if Viper has to find himself in a position where he has to win the game with big minions, then, whoa, then suddenly SilverName's reactive hand with Recruitment Contract, Assassinate, and so on suddenly become very threatening themselves.
Yeah, that look from SilverName means that he did not expect something like this.
Well, you never expect to see the questing adventurer.
I don't think the questing adventurer expected to see himself. Look at his face. He's like, what?
Questing adventurer snips
So
that.
many
Really?
options.
Okay. It's honestly just still a fairly weak turn from Viper, though, all things considered.
I think that's kind of what he's going for, though. You know, SilverName's not really committing anything, so if you commit too much to the board, you get capitalized on and perhaps don't have a response. If SilverName's not committing enough to the board and you use a Flame Strike in this spot, are you doing enough with your Flame Strike? Like, he is running out of just tools in general. And so I think trying to find uses out of weak cards is pretty smart.
Is Conjurer's Calling one of his weak cards?
Well, no, but it is a repeatable card.
Mhm.
And I think the idea for Viper is that the Conjurer's Calling is going to need to pretty much end the game. My issue with the whole thing is that the Shark is sticking aboard, but Viper's getting, that's another minion he's getting out of this. And now he actually has board, and he's got a Mountain Giant.
He finds a swing turn with the Flame Strike.
Yeah, I think this is exactly the type of position that Viper was searching for. And it's such a subtle play. It's something I actually look for from Viper.
I wonder.
He's made some pretty hot takes on Mage, namely his Twitter take of that he thinks Mage is easy. And last week when we spit him a question, he came back with an answer that was very articulate and decisive, albeit complex and lengthy. He just gets it. And so that's what I look for when I watch Viper play Mages. I'm like, what is he trying to do? I'm like, he's trying to get bigger turns. Like here, he's like, nope. Just the Mountain Giant Flame Strike's not big enough. I want the Sea Giant as well.
Yep.
Just so smart.
Betrayal positioning as well. No natural copy of Betrayal in the deck just yet for SilverName until we get to his tertiary later on. But he knows there is a big old pile of randomly generated cards in SilverName's hand, so chooses to play around that anyway.
It's kind of an interesting turn as well. It was a recruitment contract on the 6, is that right?
Yep.
So we could add a Mountain Giant to our hand. We saw that teched into decks last week.
Correct. That is now 2 Giants down. Half a Conjurer is calling down. SilverName kind of marching on towards eliminating a lot of the threats in Viper's deck, which is something we heard Orange frame last week, where he said if they take Antonidas out of their deck, you get in a position where you can just kind of kill their stuff for a while. Are you all right?
That's a massive draw!
Do you need a moment?
That's like the best draw in the deck!
Would you like some privacy?
No! That draw is awesome!
Okay.
That is so sick!
What to do? What to do?
So explain for the boys and girls at home what you would like to do with it.
Attach these things to my things and then attack for more.
How many times, on which targets, and what other cards would you like to play?
Well, the problem is this Hunter secret. You now know that it's not an explosive trap misdirection, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
So now you start thinking, Snipe will not activate on the magnetic minion. And so Rat Trap and Snipe and things that affect minions are what's in there. And so I think that when you're going to land on this, after all this time, SilverName played this on an empty board. I think it's more likely to be Rat Trap than one of the ones that affects a minion. So is he trading if that's the case? I can't imagine him trading. He's got so much damage. Yeah. 9 ya!
Ship it.
9-12.
Fireball in hand. SilverName does have the Life Drinker to pull out of range of this, but that is just the first of several problems in this position. Chief amongst which is there is a 9-12 facing him down on the other side of the board.
And by the way, when it dies, it spawns a lot of 1/1s.
Yep. I do not think SilverName is getting out of this position here.
That was such a satisfying turn to watch.
Yep. SilverName just wanted to show the cute thing that his hand could do. Play a Mountain Giant, Earth, and Might It, just with Created by Nonsense. But yeah, your bombastic reaction was accurate, Admirable. That was perhaps the best draw in his deck that turn. Not only did it allow him to keep pressure on a turn where all of his stuff had gotten blown up and he had very little to keep pressure with, but it also, the way the damage breakpoint worked out, set him up perfectly with Fireball from hand, so he beat all kinds of random nonsense, like random Frost Novas being generated from SilverName. He really put himself in a very powerful checkmate position there.
And all of that was beget by the fact that he took the slow turn with the first Conjurer's Calling to get SilverName to play more stuff into a Mountain Giant, Sea Giant, Flame Strike turn to clear everything off.
Yeah.
If he doesn't take the weak turn previously, he never gets that position.
Yeah, I think the slow turn specifically was just with the Sea Giant in mind, because I believe the Mountain Giant was the top deck immediately after that. That just made the turn even better. But because he had the Sea Giant already existing in hand, that was his plan, right? Like the snip snap that he got off his Conjurer's Calling accentuated that plan to the absolute next level. But I think definitely trying to find some swing turn, so he wasn't just flame striking, he was flame striking and developing at the same time. And that could have happened one of two ways. Either the Sea Giant got cheap enough, or he drew a 0-mana minion from his deck.
Yeah.
It just so happened both.
So you take a look at that, and the thing that I see is he could have taken Clear Skies by just flame striking. Yeah. Wouldn't have worked out. On SilverName's side, he had to take the turn where he went for Clear Skies, killed off both the Giants, and unknown development. Game snowballed out of control. Yeah. Swing turns. That's what you're looking for with Mage. We got to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're jumping into game number 2 of Viper versus SilverName. They got some stuff in the secondary, stuff that I'm looking kind of forward to right now, so stay tuned. Maybe you can see it too. Hearthstone Grandmasters.
My name is James Kostasich. My handle is Firebat. My username is based off the StarCraft player Firebat Hero. I was a fan of him and watched him on Twitch early on in his career, and then just named myself Firebat because I thought it was cool. Something about me that people don't know, I really hate spending money. I try and save it whenever I can. I recently learned how to repair a dishwasher so that I didn't have to buy a new dishwasher. I like doing stuff like that. I get a really good sense of accomplishment and pride whenever I'm able to salvage something. My favorite Hearthstone Esports memory is winning the 2014 World Championship. That was pretty tough to beat, but I'm hoping that one day I can beat that memory. Being in Grandmasters, to me, means that I get another chance to prove myself and show that 2014 wasn't a fluke and that I am still here to play. I mean, I love playing against my own region because I get to play against a lot of my friends, which is always like really fun and entertaining, and there's so many different mind games. But at the same time, I'd really love to play against Europe and really knock them down a few pegs because they're so cocky all the time. I look forward to winning the most and losing the least. I definitely don't want to lose, and I definitely want to win, so it's really simple.
I'm Will Barton. I'm also Amnesiac, the Young Savage. I was Amnesia SC for like 3 years. But since I didn't have a microphone when I started playing Hearthstone, everyone was just like, oh, it's Amnesiac. And I was like, no, but there was no mic. So I was just like, yes, okay. So I think my experience for Grandmasters was different from a lot of people because in my mind, there was just never any way I wasn't gonna be in the league. I've been top 5 in points in North America for like 4 years now or something, 3 or 4 years. I have a big presence online. I think people get excited when I come onto streams and watch them. I'm somebody people can kind of get behind. So in my mind, when they announced Grandmasters, I was like, all right, let's do it. In terms of Hearthstone, I still really think that I have what it takes to be one of, if not the best players in the world. And I really intend to put in more work than I did last year and be more disciplined. I think I got a lot better at using my time over the past year, and I want to apply that skill and show people just how good I can be.
It goes for the thumbs down. No, that's the bad guy in that movie.
Amnesiac was as close to a heel as we had in Hearthstone for quite a long time. He's gone all positivity for likes on Twitter now, but I see through it. The Young Savage is still there. I want heel Amnesiac back.
So you
sharpish.
You like the savageness?
Yes.
Oh, okay, because I do too. I find it appealing and very relatable.
I find it unique. I think it's a unique IP for him to have, where he was willing to take shots at players and talk smack now and again. Like, people don't do that in Hearthstone, and I miss it. It's essential. It makes things interesting. Fire some shots, people. Do it.
You can see him fire some shots, perhaps. He's playing Firebat in the first match of Americas later today. So if you want to catch that one, it's right after Europe gets done. But right now, we're Viper versus SilverName, and both of them have moved over to their tertiary decks. Soddle, I'm not Adam, by the way, in case you're just joining us.
Hi.
But we're gonna look at the tertiary decks from both of them, because they have some text specifically for the mirror matches. And SilverName's, it's the gold standard at this point. Maybe silver standard if he's the one playing it. I'm not really sure. I mean, SilverName's over gold name. Who's the one to say it, that one? But two fairy dragons, the walk the plank and the betrayal coming in, trying to buy that tempo and seal it up.
Yeah, it's the gold standard because Fairy Dragon kind of glows gold when you play it, right? That's where you were going with it.
Yes,
Don't worry.
exactly.
I got you. Yeah, Fairy Dragon, it's kind of a weird hybrid mix of strategies against Mage, and this is what really led me to posing the question last week of, like, how good are reactive cards when you tech against things? Because he plays two Fairy Dragons, which are about the most aggressive proactive card that you can play against Mage, but then supplements that with removal. And on the surface, that seems like a weird hedge 50-50 kind of strategy. But what you start to realize as you dig more into it is that there's actually a symbiosis there where you play more minions early on, so you have an aggressive state on the board. Your opponent panics, thinks they have to play a big minion to speed up the game, and then boom, you have the removal for it clean and just keep pushing with your minions.
And that's exactly what Viper has accounted for. Instead of having to play a big minion and get it walk the plank, instead he's going to frostbolt your early stuff and play halftime scavenger and clean up.
Can't frostbolt that Fairy Dragon, though.
True story. You can snap it, though.
You sure can. And that's where the interaction comes in. But yeah, sideboards for Mage are definitely very interesting. And I do like Kalento's answer that he gave us there in the interview just before this series, where he said, well, you can see that some players, tech very lightly for the Rogue Mirror. Sometimes they're only changing 2 cards. And I think, whether you agree with that or not, what it does tell you is that the primary deck of Rogue versus the primary deck of Mage is just kind of fine, which I agree with. I think that matchup is fine for the Mage. So I think sometimes over-teching is a bit too aggressive going into this matchup with Rogue, but I do like the Frostbolts coming in for sure. That is the #1 card that I would go to against Rogue.
Out of the deck comes a Banana Buffoon, a Frost Nova, a Stargaze, and a Luna, and ooh, you're not going to like this one, Soddle, an Archmage Antonidas.
Yep. I think it does come down to the point, though, where if you do want to tech quite heavily, some cards just have to come out of your deck. That's the reality, right? And there are a ton of cards that are just core to the strategy. So there's very few. When you're getting down to cutting Frost Novas and Stargazer Lunas, like, let alone the Antonidas, that goes to show you how kind of tight and compact this deck is these days.
Viper's got himself a pretty nice looking start here, too.
I wonder.
Yeah, he does. It's definitely kind of a difficult hand to plan for long term, because you have to consider the implications of, apprentice tempo versus keeping your hand size high for the Mountain Giant. Arcane Intellect is the perfect card for kind of making those 2 plans work hand in hand.
That's what's making me wonder about this magic trick, is oftentimes one of your best hits from it is going to be Arcane Intellect.
Sure.
If you have an Arcane Intellect, do you need to use it now?
I think with an Arcane Intellect and an Apprentice in hand, no, you don't need to use it now. I cast turn 1 Magic Trick a lot because it costs 1, and getting that mana spent is important. When you have a Sorcerer's Apprentice in your hand, it costs 0 at some point in the game. So allocating the cost towards playing it is not as important, and so you start to lean into the other side of it, which is the longer you wait, the more information you gain as to which card you want to pick off it.
We've been seeing the no early minion versus Rogue have some real payoff, too, where this is twice now that we've seen today backstab Evil Miscreant in hand and nothing to do with it. Unlike Tice, SilverName has opted to hold the Miscreant. I think it's likely for a number of reasons. Number 1, he doesn't have a whack pick. Number 2, he has an activator. And number 3, he's got 2 Evil Miscreants. That's kind of interesting with Blink Fox.
It sure is. It means if there is a Frostbolt to deal with that Blink Fox when it comes down, Viper's in Trouble Town.
Geographically speaking, where is that? Trouble Town?
It is adjacent to Trub City.
I believe that's a junction.
Oh, sorry. There are multiple roads to El Dorado, though. That's the most important thing to know.
Or if you're TJ quoting me on it, El Paso. A lot of questions for Viper this turn.
You know you're playing a good deck when it's turn 4 and you can play like 80% of your hand.
Or when it's turn 4 and you have like 17 different game plans you could possibly execute.
Yeah.
This is like a borderline uncomfortable spot where you're just like, I have so many different things I don't know what to do. For Viper, that is like his ideal scenario. He's like, one by one I get to reduce these down to the best one. Nice pickup. Ooh, Savage Roar.
I love how, like, I'm pretty sure every Hench Clan Burglar, there's one card that you just kind of get weirdly excited about.
Well, damage card.
I guess Savage Roar isn't particularly weird, but it's just, oh, Solarium. Ooh.
Well, it's just interesting. It's unique.
I know.
So that's what I like about Hedge Clan Burglar.
You actually really like random stuff, don't you?
It's just fun.
Yeah.
It changes things. Imagine if every single game was this turn.
Admirable has this look on his face as if he's being attacked right now. You're not. I'm not attacking you. You're allowed to like things.
You are not.
I fully support people like
Thank you. But imagine if this was every game. Can we buff Grave Harbor to 11 mana already?
I honestly do think that is a very good change to Conjurer's Calling, specifically, to make Grave Harbor cost 11.
Or 13, I mean, I'll take either one.
Yeah, I think 11 is probably fairer, but I'm not too worried about slightly improving Nomi Priest, personally.
So he's looking for a miscreant that, I'm sorry, a lackey that matters. Kobold is that. He wants to save the Eviscerate. Cash in on the lackey generation, get a little bit of development, and full steam ahead. I think that was the best possible turn for SilverName, given the cards he had.
Yeah, little does he know that that Grave Horror gets very cheap very quickly,
Yes.
given SilverName's current hand.
I think in the...
Oh!
All right, this is the full pop-off.
The lower of the glasses was so good! Let me just peer over my glasses so I can fully evaluate those turns.
Yes, allow me to look at how badly I will destroy you one step closer. Is this correct? These cost 0? Okay. This is just not fair.
Okay, this turn. Why is there now a Sea Giant in his hand as well?
Why did we pay a mana for that?
Time runs out on me.
I am unclear.
Why did we pay a mana for that? I guess his board's gonna be full, so he can't conjure.
Yeah.
Touche. Touche. Viper's a genius.
Jeez.
He's already dead.
No, dude, come on. I'm calling the police. A crime was committed this turn.
Look at Viper's like upset with his sequencing.
I mean, it definitely wasn't perfect, but that was about as APM intensive a Hearthstone turn as you're ever likely to see.
What could have gone better? Could have gotten a hero power in. I realize that he expects better from himself. That's one of the things I love about Viper.
Yeah. I mean, he could have had mana remaining to play secrets here at the end of the turn. That could be relevant.
He expects so much of himself, even amidst like the most disgusting of imaginable turns.
Yeah. I mean, I tried to play a turn somewhat similar to that yesterday during an earthquake. It was not easy. That is not an exaggeration. That is a literal statement. My building was shaking while I was trying to play a turn of Hearthstone. And Admirable was on call with me, telling me to duck and cover and like take everything down off the shelves. And I was trying to have that kind of Cyclone Mage turn. It did not end well.
I just love how TJ's turns were so simple. He passes the turn, Earthquake begins. Subtle ends the complicated turn. Earthquake stops.
Seriously, the moment I hit end turn, it was like, all right, he's done.
So many times I've looked at the other side of the board and said something to the equivalent of they need an earthquake or a meteor to happen on the other side in order to win. And Subtle experienced that literal effect.
Yeah.
Not hyperbole, literally. Literally.
Yes.
Which could effectively mean hyperbole, literally.
I
Correct.
Digress. More disgusting turns. Make space with the Conjurer's Calling. Less is more.
More is more. Oh, now he has a decision to make.
Oh my. No, there is not. 24 attack.
I mean,
Go ahead.
I think still think there's a decision there as to whether you want a Sorcerer's Apprentice or a 6-drop.
Well, more is more.
Sure. I buy that.
Ice Barrier up. So Savage Roar is 10 plus 5 on board. That's 15. In SilverName's perspective, wait, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21. In his perspective, he wins this.
Yep.
But it's just an Ice Barrier.
Yep.
And you see his reaction.
Yeah, he can't believe it.
And I think, honestly, I'd have the same one.
Yeah, to face down those last 2 turns from Viper and then find an out because of a created by card that you picked earlier and then have that out stolen away from you by the secret being Ice Barrier. It's got to be incredibly disappointing, but look at Viper's face still. I tell you, the one thing he is thinking about is still that turn 2 turns ago, where I challenge anyone to have got that turn perfectly in the time that was allowed.
I would have just been celebrating. I'd have been like, woo, look at this turn, slinging things, big things in play, nothing they could do. Got this one locked up. Viper's like, oh, I could have done the thing better.
I would have been hoping for another Earthquake so I had an excuse as to why I didn't play it perfectly.
Big win for Viper. Kalento picked up his match, and so Viper now comes in clutch, moves up to an 8-5 record. So he's trailing behind Kalento by half a match right now, with Kalento sitting at 9-5. So big win here. Viper's ready for an interview. Viper, can you hear us? Microphone muted.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
There it is.
Yeah, guys.
Well, I mean, you clearly have something on your mind, so lay it on me.
I don't know. Some interesting games, I have to say. I think the first game, the turn I drew the Antonia, was like the general mindset of my first game was, okay, I have this Frost Novas, I have Flame Strike, you want to go Nova, Flame Strike, because just freezing stuff when you don't have stuff is bad. And then, I don't know, I just like wasted the Nova instead of just playing the barrier, which just didn't make any sense. And then I played a Banana Buffoon the next turn instead of just flame striking when I probably should, because if he has to talk, I lose. Then my mind goes to, well, if he has to talk, I lose anyway, so it was actually the right play. I just didn't think it right. I was like,
Okay, I'm glad you just settled on it was the right play, because that looked beautiful. I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but the Banana Buffoon play was, in my opinion, definitely the right play. But continue, because you still have a lot that's going on here. I'm surprised you just didn't address the second game the most.
There were so many interesting things, and it was actually pretty difficult to play because of all the cards I got, and then it's like, I don't know, all the random cards Rogue gets, and then these weird scenarios comes up. It was interesting games. The second game, I was really mad at myself when I messed up the betrayal positioning, and yeah, I guess that was like the only thing I was really mad at myself in the second game, messing up the betrayal positioning, because that just shouldn't. It's so bad that it didn't become a habit of mine until at this point, when I'm like playing these turns and a bit stressed out in the end to just maximize everything. And when you wanna, I guess that's the thing, when you wanna like maximize the small things that actually never matter, sometimes you just forget about the great scheme of, well, there's a betrayal, just like play around that, and the turn is good enough. You probably win anyways, just play around that card. Doesn't matter if you get one additional spell in, or like, yeah, I don't know. So I just like a little mad at myself, but I don't know, I play mage and I got good cards, then the deck's pretty unfair if that happens, so.
So, obviously, Kalento won earlier in the series before you. You've kept pace with Kalento now by picking up the win. Obviously, your next match is against Kalento. Like, coming into this week, How much did kind of the head-to-head playoffs qualifier like play into your preparation for Colento?
Coming into this week, it was like a weird scenario because there are different ways of me making top 3. There's like the way of me winning the heads-up against Colento, and then like we both win our other matches basically, or like then it doesn't, like if I win my second match and I win against Colento, I'm in, nothing else matters. If I only win against Colento, then I would need Bunny to lose 2 games, or I would need Colento to lose 1 game. So now that Colento won his game, I just have to win against him, and yeah, I guess those are the things. So I went into this week with pretty good odds, but it still looked difficult because I have to, most of the time I have to win against Colento, and it's not that easy, I guess.
So it's going to be a Mage Mirror against Colento, right? Is that what's happening? Yes.
Yeah.
So how do you feel in the Mage Mirror? Are you feeling confident about it?
I feel pretty sad that I don't have a Mage side deck this week, and Colento has one, so that puts me at a slight disadvantage, sadly. Besides that, I mean, it's still the Mage Mirror. The Mage Mirror is kind of a matchup of both. Most of the time, both end up having a lot of big minions in play, and then they just freeze each other, and the guy that gets to take first value trades or runs out of freezes first kind of just loses. So there are definitely mistakes to make in the mirror, like when to use Ray of Frost, when to use Frost Novas, or when you commit for the Giants, when you can sometimes clear things, sometimes all in on sorcerers, and so on. So the Mage Mirror, it always looks very predetermined by the cards you draw, but players still have to play it out well, so it's always nice to watch. Looking forward to that.
And so I want to talk lastly about the side deck situation where he kind of said that bringing a side deck for Rogue just for him wasn't really a thought. There just wasn't enough stuff that you were bringing in. What's the decision to make that call? Like, how do you actually decide to bring a deck for Mage or bring a side deck for Rogue?
The decision I had, or what I anticipated going into this week, was SilverName just brings the same deck, the same cards again as last week. So I thought I will need my Warrior side deck, and Colento probably thinks until that point as well, which then would make, like, then at that point he thinks I'm probably going to bring Mage because I probably just want to win both matches, and I want to be favored against SilverName, which is the certain matchup. And then he probably brings Rogue, because Rogue is slightly favored against Mage. So I just went for the Rogue side deck because I thought Colento was going to bring Rogue. But then he just went for the Mage and the Mirror side deck to maybe just be favored against me because he didn't think I have a Mirror side deck. So well done by him. Won the mind game thing, I guess.
All right, well, Viper, thank you very much for your time, and congratulations on your win. This is a big one, and you got one more this week, and I'm really looking forward to it. The leveling game, when he explained it, it sounded so simple. Like, I've gone over it in my head a lot of times, and I'm like, this is really difficult. He just explains things, and it sounds so simple afterwards.
Yeah,
But
I saw your little fist pump though when you finally got him to admit that some of the turns were hard in Mage.
Yeah!
You've been beating that dead horse for weeks now about that tweet, and you got your payoff.
It's so hard! It's so hard! When he said it was easy, I was like, no!
I quit. Papers everywhere, just out.
When you
Gone.
look, when you get the God draw, it can look easy.
Yeah.
When you just have like an amalgamation of lots of cards and they're all good, but they're not certain that they're going to beat your opponent, it gets difficult and I get worried.
Yeah, well, I believe, as mentioned, the impact of both of our first 2 series are huge on the standings, so let's take a quick look at where we are in that group. Fino, kind of the player we haven't mentioned so far because he's run away with the group at 10-2, but there you see the chasing pack for those 2 remaining spots, Colento and Viper, both just doing what they can, and I do love that Colento philosophy of, no, why should I care what tiebreakers do? I just have to win my games. That's what matters. That's what I have control of. That's what I'm going to do. That's what he's been doing so far in Grandmasters. That's what he continued to do today.
Yep, very stark contrast to Viper, who wanted...
Oh, he knew everything.
Oh, yeah. Should have just asked him about it instead of sitting down and actually trying to do all the math myself.
Yep.
But that's where it stands right now. They're playing for that playoff spot, which playoffs are next week. So this is big matches that we have over the next 3 days. And speaking of big matches, another one is coming up. Bunny Hopper taking on Boston in our match of the day. And just like our first 2, very crucial round here for Bunny Hopper. Still in the race for playoffs and needs to find wins. Both of the players that he's hoping to lose, both found wins in this scenario.
Yeah, he would have been just sat there watching the first few games of the broadcast, just praying for losses for Kalento and Viper, not finding them, unfortunately. But again, and that Kalento mindset, you can only do what you can do, and that is pick up wins where you can. He has going up against Boston here, and again, much like our first two series, they are similar in stature, all three of them hugely impactful, similar in makeup as well, because what have we got, Admirable?
We got a good old-fashioned rogue versus mage.
Yes, we do.
Matchup. And since it's the match of the day, we also have a media piece prepared for these two. So learn a little bit more about them.
My name is Elias Sibelius and I go under Boston.
My name is Rafael Pelza. I go by Bunny Hopper. I'm very competitive. I don't like to do things halfway. So when I practice, I invest a lot of hours. I try to take things seriously and just, you know, treat it as a proper job.
Just playing on a weekly basis is gonna be amazing. Something I've been looking to do the entirety of my Hearthstone career, and myself being a part of the league is gonna be super interesting. When I got the confirmation that I was in Grandmaster, I was overwhelmed by emotions. Even though I haven't had the first place big tournament win, they actually appreciate that consistency and what I've been working for the last couple of years.
What great things have I done? I won a championship. I have a championship trophy from last year at home, so I think that speaks for itself. I think I should justify being in GM.
Yeah, it's scary to play in Europe. And just looking at my division, every player there is like extremely well known, extremely good.
It's still sometimes cool to face these players where years ago when you started playing Hearthstone and then you just watch streams, scroll a few years forward and you're in the same division as him.
Bunny Hopper shown during this year that he's like for sure one of the best players in the world. Just super consistent, and I think he very rarely do like clear mistakes. He's just very solid player.
I mean, I know of Boston, I've met him, we've hung out at DreamHacks, and he's been posting good results mostly over tour stops. He's had a pretty shaky performance so far.